Daring Abroad is brought to you by our friends at Remitly. Download the Remitly app to send money back home.
Hello there and welcome to the show, and today we will take you to St. Helena Island, a tiny remote island in South Atlantic Ocean, and we'll tell you who is daring there. And on our back home segment, we'll tell you why Kenya has been ranked best in aviation security in the region. But first, here are the highlights. Bramwell Bushuru and his family are the only Kenyans on St. Helena Island that is found in South Atlantic Ocean.
The terrain, the people, the culture, the systems. It's a place like no other.
Bramwell is an air traffic controller on the island whose population is about 4,000 people.
Link 3136, I copied 1229, stand by descent.
Link 3136.
Also on the show, why Kenya has been ranked best in aviation security in the region and what it means for the country.
Aviation security is not a one-man show. It involves everybody in the industry.
When it comes to aviation security, airports are absolutely key.
Great, we now move straight into Bramwell Bushuru's story. It's windy, foggy. Visibility may be a challenge.
That's fine, okay.
But this is not new to Bramwell Bushuru, as he directs a plane that is just about to land at St. Helena Island's only airport.
Link 132, standing by for your forward estimate when you're ready.
ETA 70.
Bramwell is the officer in charge of air traffic services here. He has been an air traffic controller for more than 22 years. Bramwell remains calm despite the weather challenge as he displays his multitasking skills.
Link 3136, I copied 1229, stand by descent.
Link 3136.
Ewala, the plane lands safely.
We have had forecasted bad weather conditions, which became more prevalent as the flight continued inbound. But there's something we call a point of no return. That's a point at which, if an aircraft is inbound, if it goes beyond a point of no return, it means it needs to come here. If it does not reach that point, it can go back to where it came from, because it's easier and it's closer to the nearest aerodrome, diversion airfield. So when the weather doesn't seem to be improving, or fog moves in and it doesn't seem like it will go anywhere, then we advise the pilot to consider not coming here for the purposes of safety, because it's more fuel burn to get here and attempt a landing and not land.
Are there normally tense moments and you don't know what will happen, or it's normally manageable?
There are tense moments, and the tense moments happen when the bad weather comes just minutes ahead of the flight, or the wind speeds pick up significantly just before the flight lands, which means it increases the possibility of wind shear on the short funnel approach, and that can bring a lot of tension both in the cockpit and in the control tower. But we are trained and we know how to handle that. It's something that we just do as part of our business for the day.
St. Helena Island is a tiny island situated in South Atlantic Ocean. It is a British overseas territory with a population of just about 4,000 people. To travel here by air, you have to connect through Johannesburg, a 4-hour flight. There is only one flight per week. The airport was opened in 2016, but the first commercial plane landed here in October 2017, meaning there were no commercial flights on the island before then. The only means of transport was by sea. A ship takes about 6 days from South Africa. Bramwell, who arrived on the island in 2016, has been the only Kenyan living here.
When I came here, I started to meet a few Africans on the island. I asked around also if there are any Kenyans on the island. Because it's a small island where people can easily know each other, I came to learn that at the time there were no Kenyans. But I heard that there were Kenyans a couple of years ago who were here working as teachers. I don't recall their names, but yeah, I've been the only Kenyan for a couple of years.
So they had left.
Now I brought my family last year, April, and I'm here with my family. At the present moment, we're now 3 of us on the island. And we're looking forward to having more Kenyans here so we can speak more Swahili.
And as we conduct this interview, the 2 of us, my videographer and I, joining you, so we are 5 Kenyans currently.
That's correct. 5 Kenyans in a population of approximately 4,300 people.
What's your impression of the island?
Unique place, a place like no other. The geography, the terrain, the people, the culture, the systems. It's a place like no other. Often when people talk about tourism, people feel that it's expensive to come here and they might think of alternative destinations. But the reality is there's no place like St. Helena.
Yeah, dolphin, join.
It's a very unique place. The terrain looks like you're walking on the moon because the island was formed out of volcanic activity centuries ago. The people are very friendly and warm and very simple systems. You don't need to lock your car when you're on the island. You don't need to worry about being mugged when you're on the island. It's a simple lifestyle. It transforms how you look at life. There is no estates that are reserved for the wealthy or for the poor and things like that. Anyone can live anywhere. And people mingle easily without any segregations or classifications in the society. That I admire a lot about this island.
It is a remote island, 3 hours behind Nairobi in terms of time difference. The main town on this island is Jamestown, where Bramwell, his wife Sarah, and his son Asa live. Here, with time, you get to know each other. It's like a village. Bramwell is very social. He is known by everybody, literally speaking, including Governor His Excellency Nigel Phillips, Chief Minister Julie Thomas, and the entire cabinet that comprises 5 ministers. Bramwell is one of the top golfers here.
I'm the captain of the Helena Golf Club since 2018, February, when I was elected for the first time. And subsequently, every year, I have been re-elected in that position as the captain of the club.
Yes, Bramwell is an influential person on St. Helena Island. He is also the vice chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, effective November 2022.
The Public Accounts Committee is composed of 5 members. That's what the Constitution stipulates. And out of the 5 members, 3 of them must be elected councillors. So we don't have members of parliament, we've got councillors who form the LegCo. So 3 of the members are councillors and they're not in the cabinet. And 2 of the members are appointed by the governor in consultation with the LegCo members.
Bramwell, who was born in Eldoret and grew up in Kitale, Trans Nzoia County, was trained as an air traffic controller at the East Africa School of Aviation. His first employer was Kenya's Directorate of Civil Aviation under the Ministry of Transport in 1999.
I worked in Mombasa, from there went to Eldoret, went to Kisumu, went to Jomo, but between Kisumu and Jomo, this year then became KCAA, which is a parastatal in Kenya, and under KCAA there was air traffic services, under which I fell as an air traffic controller. Worked in Jomo 2005 up to 2010.
Bramwell's journey to St. Helena Island was through a job in South Africa.
When South Africa had been granted the right to host the Soccer World Cup of 2010, they needed to boost their numbers in terms of air traffic controllers. So they went to recruit outside of South Africa, which normally would be the case in most countries. Controllers are hired from that country, first and foremost. But when you need to add numbers and you don't have them already, then you look outside if you need to have those skills and experience urgently. So that's the case that happened for me. I joined Air Traffic and Navigation Services, which is a state-owned company in South Africa under the Department of Transport. And I went to South Africa in 2010. I worked there until 2016. Then I came to the island because ATNS got a contract to provide air traffic services to St. Helena government. So that's when I switched to come to the island.
Now, you'll be surprised to learn that on this island, no life has been lost because of COVID-19.
The island has been lucky. As far as I know, we haven't had any lives lost because of COVID.
Being remote and with a small population can be an advantage.
So what happened in our instance is that the company that is licensed to provide transport, which is Airlink, stopped coming to the island because most airspaces were closed anyway. When that happened, after a couple of weeks, the government made a decision to charter a service for the people of the island to be able to get off and to come back, or those who are outside to come back to the island. But then there was strict restrictions in place that had to be complied with. Initially, I believe it was 14 days. When you came to the island, you had to be tested on arrival, stay 14 days in compulsory government-provided quarantine at the time in Bradley's, test negative before you can go home. But with time, of course, things evolved and the severity of COVID sort of dropped at some point, and vaccines were developed and people got vaccinated. And last year it was determined that we cannot continue with the restrictions that we had because then it is not to the benefit of the community. So then the government made a decision to say, effective, I think it was 10th of August, no further restrictions. If you arrive on the island, you go home, you don't need to go into quarantine.
Do Kenyans ever come here as tourists?
I haven't had any Kenyan tourists visiting the island yet for the time I've been here. And because it's a small island, it's very easy to know who is visiting. I sit in this glass building and I look down when passengers are disembarking, and I can pretty much see who is coming and who is going. So thanks to Chams Media, Alex and his colleague Eric for visiting the island. You are probably the first tourist to visit the island,
nice
and we are looking forward to having more Kenyans visiting the island.
Wow, what a wonderful working holiday with Bramwell Bushuru, a former employee of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority who is now in charge of air traffic services on St. Helena Island. And back home, we have a related story.
Aviation security is not a one-man show. It involves everybody in the industry.
When it comes to aviation security, airports are absolutely key.
Why Kenya has been ranked best in aviation security in the region and what this means for the country, right after the break.
Centum Real Estate has completed and handed over 500 plus homes in the prime neighborhood of Vipingo. You can now own a home from as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings and enjoy a flexible payment plan of 10% on signing the letter of offer and the balance in equal monthly installments within 18 months. The estates offer a unique secure environment with world-class amenities and infrastructure and a wide range of outdoor facilities. Call us today on 0740 400 215 or SMS Vipingo to 22365. You are watching Daring Abroad, brought to you by our friends at Remitly. Download the Remitly app to send money back home.
Welcome back. Now, An international audit has endorsed Kenya's aviation security once again. Find out what this means for you and the country at large. That's next on our Back Home segment. Kenya has been ranked best in East, Central and Southern Africa region in aviation security following an audit by the International Civil Aviation Organization, having scored 91.77%. The audit was conducted in May 2022. Currently, the average global score stands at 71.86%, while the African average is 61.90%. Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, that is responsible for regulating civil aviation in Kenya, says the audit outcome has given the country a clean bill of health, with the score being the highest ever recorded for the region.
The score shows that Kenya has high standards of security, and therefore you have no fear flying into the country, knowing that your aircraft is safe, and you as a passenger, when you fly, you know you're in a safe environment.
Our flying time to Eldoret is 35 minutes.
Generally, in this country, aviation security is very well implemented. And taking you back to 2018, when the state got the last point of departure, now we have flights flying directly to the US. For us to have gotten the last point of departure, it means that the security standards, especially at JKIA, are very high.
It means that we are contributing very meaningfully to the overall security position of the country. When aviation security is guaranteed, then it also means that we are making a worthwhile contribution to the overall security status of the country. And when security is guaranteed in the country, people can go about their productive activities and build the nation, knowing that security is assured.
For airlines, we see this as a great opportunity, first of all, to attract investors. And with investment opportunities, we can see airlines improving their fleets, not only in numbers, but also in newer fleet acquisitions. We also see this as a great benefit in terms of opening up Kenya, in terms of also investment to the infrastructure, because this has basically shown that Kenya as a state is safe and ready for business, especially aviation business. So this has an overall effect from the airlines perspective, from a trade perspective, from an increased tourism perspective. And that also has a catalytic effect in terms of job creation, both directly and indirectly.
Security in the aviation sector cuts across borders, hence the need for globally recognized standards that are enforced by the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is commonly known as ICAO.
Kenya is a member of ICAO, which has a membership of 193 states. And under the Chicago Convention, where we ratify to implement standards and recommended practices, it is necessary that other countries or other member states are assured of safe aviation operating environment. Kenya was audited first in 2008, where we had a score of effective implementation of 68%. Then again, we are audited in 2015. We scored about 88%.
When you're talking of aviation industry, you're talking of flights moving from one country to the other. So when you're talking of aviation industry, you really cannot talk of aviation industry in regard to your country, because then it's the movement of aircraft from one state to the other. And so that has to be regulated at the international level.
This achievement that we got is very important to the Kenyan economy, in the sense that we would be attracting more carriers into our airports, into our country, because they are confident that Kenya is a safe destination. That translates to growth of the economy. in terms of passenger revenue. Hotels, occupancy rate will be very high, even tourists to Masai Mara.
Audits in the aviation industry are conducted regularly. Locally, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, being the state agency responsible for regulating civil aviation in the country, provides the lead, like what happened in this particular audit.
Aviation security is not a one-man show. It involves everybody in the industry. It involves now the Kenya Civil Aviation taking lead, but then we have the airport operator, who is Kenya Airports Authority. We have the government agencies, which is Kenya Police, Customs, Immigration, and the other government agencies that are working at our airports. Airlines, we have the ground handlers, we have the catering, we have the training schools and all that.
2 of our airports were featuring in the audit: Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and Moi International Airport, Mombasa. Yeah. When it comes to aviation security, airports are absolutely key. We have to ensure that we screen our passengers. We have to ensure that we provide access control in a manner that it is required. We also provide the equipment that can screen, cargo, baggage for any undesirable elements. So aviation security is very critical to airport operations.
We also have aviation security service providers. These are private security entities which offer aviation security services within the aviation sector. And then we also have air navigation service providers. And together with that, we also work with our mother ministry, which is a ministry of, in charge of transport. And also we work with the different entities like the Attorney General's office when it comes to preparation of the legislative framework.
Kenya signed a memorandum of understanding with the International Civil Aviation Organization on 14th October 2004. The continuous monitoring approach of the Universal Security Audit Program started in 2006. The big question is, what exactly was being assessed in the audit? How was the audit done?
International Civil Aviation Organization have come up with we call standard and recommended practices, which are in annexes. We have Annex 1 to Annex 19 for various aspects of aviation. And in security, we have Annex 17. And in Annex 17, the recommended practices are those standards that ensure other partners, member states of the world, that there is enough security by how much you have implemented those particular standard and recommended practices. And in this case, Kenya is audited in compliance of how much they have implemented the security standards of Annex 17.
Each member state is supposed to develop regulations and the National Civil Aviation Security Program plus other several documents. Now, these are the documents that you're supposed to send to International Civil Aviation Organization for them to peruse even before they come to the country for the audit, just for them to make sure that those audits align with the Annex 17.
The auditors then visit the country and review the documents together with the aviation security team, followed by field visits for fact-checking.
They look at the oversight system of the state. Within this system, there are those building blocks which forms an oversight system, which starts right from a legislative framework, a regulation and programs, training and certification of personnel. They also look at aircraft and in-flight security. At the same time, they also look at airport operations. They also look at cargo operations. They also look at how do you resolve security concerns. And they also look at how you train your inspectors, that is under personnel qualifications and training.
During the audit, there is also risk assessment.
The first one was just the normal or routine assessment for member states. The last one, which we completed And we did well. It was risk-based, considering the fact that in the region where we are and what the regional ICAO office gathered in terms of threat and risk assessment.
According to international practices, if a country does not comply, it risks being blacklisted.
And if Kenya is blacklisted, international carriers would not be flying to Kenya. And Kenya carriers would not be allowed to operate in other international states.
During the audit, Kenya Civil Aviation Board provided the strategic leadership right from the planning and preparation stage.
The board of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority represents the minister in charge of civil aviation in Kenya. And this audit is not about Kenya Civil Aviation only. It is a state audit.
Kenya Civil Aviation Authority assures members of the public that it will maintain this status and work even harder to raise the bar in aviation security.
The way forward is to maintain standards, is that continue doing oversight as a CAA and make sure that every air operator is properly certificated and having a proper security manuals, and also doing what we call surveillance. And we have to, as an authority, we have to keep inspecting to ensure that standards are maintained and the procedures are being followed, and to ensure that all operators are properly certificated.
Amazing. Congratulations to Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, Kenya Airports Authority, and all the stakeholders who are involved. This makes Kenya proud. And on that note, we come to the end of the show. On behalf of my team at Chams Media Limited and our broadcasting partner NTV, many thanks for watching, and see you again next time.
Daring Abroad is brought to you by our friends at Remitly. Download the Remitly app to send money back home.